The Saltfen Brood, an ancient culture made up of human-adjacent beings. Here in the Skirmar Empire, we generally refer to them as animalistic swamp dwellers with bug gods and crude tools. But after walking their swamps, I can tell you, that's very wrong. Their culture's older and sharper than ours in ways we don't understand. The bugs they commune with are more than pets or livestock. They fulfill every aspect and need in their society, building and living with them, growing and twisting their forms into huge beasts, becoming their tools, weapons, armor, and food. The whole place runs like a complex yet cooperative hive. The name's Jor, totally above board trader for hire. The Empire was willing to generously pay someone neutral to make exchanges with the Brood. The swamp folk are not fond of foreign military forces in their territory, you see. My job was to obtain the Brood's powerful bug-derived products for the Skirmari military. Honeys, wax, glue, string, silk, venom, and acids. The honeys from the Brood are known across Arva because of their mind and body altering properties. But the Brood does not care for coin or any normal commodity. They are a society of shared provision. It's a system built on fulfilling needs. Everything they make is strictly gathered and distributed by the ant caste. The only thing they care to trade for are insects, crustaceans, mollusks, worms, and arachnids from any region. They likely use these bugs in their mutation process, where they carve Valinauts into living things to warp them for their needs. We had 18 people total, a few mercs, a dozen laborers, a cook, a bug handler, and Rel, our translator and guide who could just barely understand the Saltfen Brood's strange chittering language. He was also able to communicate back through their unique form of sign language, which includes precise leg movements. We packed up a dozen crates with jars of bugs from all across Arva and loaded them onto 2 carriages, rode west across Midlark territory for a week until the ground fell away into that endless swamp, Saltfen. A whole world of wetlands spotted with the Brood's towering anthills and hives. We ditched the horses and carriages with 2 guards. From there on, it was just our boots in the mud. The place felt alive in the worst way. Buzzing and chittering, humid, thick air filled with flying insects, many of which enjoyed our blood and flesh. Crawling and slithering things made their presence known on our bodies. Rel kept us to the high spots, but even then, we had to wade through waist-deep, leech-infested muck several times a day. Those damned leeches were unlike any I had encountered before, some even as big as 2 feet long. The presence of disease was undeniable. On the first day, one of the mercs sliced his calf on a submerged branch. The second day, his leg was gray, wound blackened and picked at by bugs. He didn't make it through the night. We kept on for a few more days, losing people as we went. 2 laborers went feverish, wounds infected and infested. Another was dragged under right next to us while we slept. Something with big pincers clamped onto his head and pulled him into the water before anyone could reach him. After that, we scanned the waters at all times. A horrible recurring encounter were these tiny beetles that would often end up around the eyes. Their bodies left an agonizing itching sensation, alongside an incredible amount of puffiness. I'd say half of us were half blind by the first week, and by then, our fresh water ran low. Turned out, some of the local insects enjoyed the taste of leather and emptied a few of our water skins in one night. And even though we were down on men, we drank more than expected thanks to the miserable muggy heat. It was clear that Saltfen did not want us. Our bodies were pruned and melting away, eaten by crawling, flying, and slithering things, all while in a constant state of dampness. 2 days later, we ran out of water and grew desperate. Most of us, to Rel's disapproval, drank small amounts of boiled swamp water. It was wretched, salty with too many unknown particles. Nearly all of us got sick from it and were forced to expel our liquids. Night came again, and I was lying on my back, staring at the sky. Couldn't see many stars through the fog, just the usual clouds of fireflies flashing in and out. I thought it might be a peaceful end there. Perhaps my last thoughts could be of one of the few insects that paid us no mind. But then I spotted one that was off. It was larger than the others and moved much slower, blinking in strange patterns. Next thing I know, the light starts coming down. As it got closer, the descending green light revealed the huge warped firefly that was producing it. And riding on its back was a Brood member, one of the Firefly caste. covered head to toe in tight, segmented chitin armor, mostly black with streaks of yellow, orange, and red. The rider was holding a warped firefly's abdomen like a lantern. The giant firefly landed next to us, and the rider hopped down to meet us. Couldn't see their face or anything under the armor. Not a single obvious weak spot in the whole thing. It looked like it was grown right onto him, every plate in the perfect place. The broodling then spoke. Sounds of chittering laced with buzzing undertones filled the air. All the while it did kicks, jumps, and stomps. Rel stood there staring for a second, trying to piece it together, then stomped his feet back in this messy little pattern of his own, as he gestured towards the many crates of bugs in the laborers' mitts. The broodling chittered back a short response before leaping back onto their firefly, flew straight up and vanished into the black. Rel told us the broodlings wanted us to wait, so we did. As the sun began to rise, two massive beetles came marching toward us, legs pounding the mud like drums. They looked to be 15 feet tall, with long abdomens. Each had a rider from the beetle caste, way bigger than the firefly one. Tall, nearly 7 feet, thick with bulky rounded armor plates, black and dark blues and greens with a glint of iridescence. Each held a chitin maul that looked like it could turn a man into paste. They approached and dismounted, and immediately grabbed our bug crates like they weighed nothing and stacked them onto the beetles' backs. They then picked us up, all 9 of us left. Me, Rel, the bug handler, 2 mercs, and the last 5 laborers. We were so weak by then. I still wonder why they didn't leave us for dead and take the goods. We happily rested then, finally off our dying feet and out of the muck. Not that it changed how we felt. Most of us were half rotten. My right leg was swollen, trench foot, infection, take your pick. Everyone else was the same or worse. After a few more hours of travel, we arrived at a brood outpost. A massive anthill towered over the swamp. Behind, a few rich yellow hives loomed, and sprinkled throughout the outpost were smaller pale paper hives the size of cottages, and those were just the surface structures. All around us now were tunnels brimming with noise. The entrances of them were plastered with orange, gray, and brown clay, with bug parts inlaid, making symmetrical designs. The ground was a similar combination of bug parts, clay, and mud. The various shapes of chitin acted as stone in a massive mosaic that made up the outdoor flooring. The place was a perfect chaos. Swarms of vastly different-looking broodlings moving in complementary rhythms. Rel told me how the Saltfen Brood lives in a tightly woven caste society. Each member is born into a distinct caste, symbolic of a specific insect, crustacean, mollusk, worm, or arachnid. They are all a part of a balanced system, where each role is considered equal but performs different tasks according to their caste. He explained how each caste is born predisposed to fit their role perfectly, mentally and physically. For example, all beetle and crab caste members are born with abnormally large, dense muscles, able to fulfill their roles as frontline warriors. This made me wonder how ancient they are, how each caste could have become so specialized. Some Skirmari anthropologists theorize the brood's ancestors were seeded with the god of change's influence long ago, making their spawn more susceptible to adaptation through mutation. I wish I could have gotten a good look at their actual bodies, especially their faces, but they never removed their face guards around us, and I've heard that each caste's face is vastly different, resembling traits of their caste bug. A mosquito caste member, for instance, is said to have a thinner, angular face with small, dark eyes and pallid skin. The first caste we saw as we entered the outpost were the ant caste, and they were hauling materials alongside their huge mutated ants, gathering goods from other castes and also distributing everything. They were the most common caste we saw roaming on the surface. About a dozen ant caste members came up and unloaded the bug crates, bringing them off to the anthill tower. We were apparently headed for a hive. We rolled in and were stared at by a bee caste member. Armor smooth and rounded, colors yellow and black, shorter and wide-bodied. They moved with this slower grace, and then poked and prodded at our wounds and signaled. The next thing we know, we're being escorted toward one of the hives, one the size of a temple. It was hollowed on the inside, at least on the ground level, and looking up, there were dozens of partial layers of honeycomb acting like shelves, with bee caste members being lifted up and down by their massive mutated bees. It was very loud in there. The buzzing of those giant bees echoing around the room was irritating. The bee broodlings gave us some drinks, contained in what looked to be hollowed, warped insect abdomens. It was a thick, perfectly clear fluid. Tasted like the thought of mud and salt. It became clear that it was very hydrating, and we finished our abdomens within the minute. We were then laid upon beeswax cots lined with some pleasantly soft white silk. As we waited, off to one side we saw a batch of darker red honey being sealed in wax containers. Rel said that must have been the frenzy honey, the stuff that soldiers from all around go mad for. Not only does it make you rage like a berserker, it's supposed to improve your physical prowess for some time. Then came in Leech Caste members, wearing much shinier, ribbed chitin armor in segmented black, brown, and olive tones. All 3 of them carried silken baskets filled with leeches. But these ones were smaller than the pests in the wilds. They were also subtly different colors, different shades of brown, black, olive, and gray. We recoiled, but eventually accepted them being placed onto some of our wounds. Some of them went onto swelling parts, others onto more rotten or dead areas. They fed for an hour and then left, and I must admit, I was quite relaxed after that. Our wounds were then dressed with vital honey by bee caste members, which immediately numbed the areas, including the endless bug bites. We were also given a few scoops of the honey, which settled our stomachs. Then came the surgery. You see, my left leg was lost. The infection was pulsing through my veins. I could feel it burning with every heartbeat. The bee caste surely noticed too. While disturbing at first, it was fascinating to see the tool they used to remove my leg from below the knee. A saw-toothed device. Shiny, black chitin material. It looked to be some kind of insect arm, like a warped mantis arm. It made its way through my flesh with ease. Glad I was numbed by the honey. The wounds were then sealed with more vital honey and wrapped in a mixture of wax-coated silk. I truly believe I would not be here today if they had not made the choice to amputate. We were then left to rest for the night. Not much sleep was had with the buzzing in the hive. As we laid there trying to rest, seemingly all at the same time, all the broodlings began humming different resonances. The bee caste were all singing the same high note, and we heard tens of other notes being sung outside. This lasted for a few minutes. The combination of resonances was beautiful and strange. I even felt the urge to join in. And all at once, the broodlings stopped the resonance and resumed their nightly duties. The next day we awoke feeling not like death. The bee broodlings then lathered our entire bodies in this thick gray mud. Rel said that they use this specific mud to protect themselves from the elements. Their entire bodies are covered with the mud as well, apparently, just underneath their chitin armor. As we felt the mud drying and cracking on our skin, a welcome savory aroma filled the hive. Our eyes darted to some ant caste members carrying steaming clamshell bowls towards us. They were filled with some kind of seafood boil, with some extra creatures. Alongside crabs, clams, and crayfish, I saw snail shells, insect eggs, and grubs, and we feasted without hesitation. It was surprisingly tasty, salty, sour, and spicy. After that, we were back on the beetles, being escorted back to the anthill trading hub. On the way, we got to see more of the brood's strange customs and castes. Near the hive we spent the night in, there was another, much smaller hive, and as we passed it, we saw many mosquito caste members standing around it. The sounds of suffering were bellowing from the inside. I learned that this was a coming-of-age ceremony that they call the brood binding. An 18-year-old mosquito broodling was in there, alongside thousands of mosquitoes. They were also dosed with sage honey, a hallucinogenic honey strain that intensifies the experience, surely. You see, in order to become accepted into their respective castes, broodlings must mentally and physically survive an entire day sealed inside an infested hive, with no mud or armor to protect them. Their goal is to bond with their caste bug. The brood will not accept a member into their caste if they cannot make it through the ritual, and they're also not allowed to join any other caste. If I was a broodling, I'd sure hope I was a part of a different caste, like maybe the snail caste. Being slimy is better than being eaten alive. Another curious sight on our way to the anthill were the Bugsmiths. We passed by a large pen connected to a clay building. Inside the pen were dozens of huge mutated bugs. There were mainly beetles, clams, crabs, and snails. Brood members from these castes were carving Valinauts into these creatures, growing and warping them in various forms, then harvesting large chunks of the creature's chitin and forging them into various armors and weapons. Rel said their chitin armor is stronger and lighter than any Skirmari steel. He also mentioned how their weaponry is also impressive, how their blades and spears crafted from bug parts are impossibly sharp and sturdy. Their carving tools made from bug parts are said to even be sharper than obsidian knives, the supposed best tool for carving Valinauts. All of these mutations are possible thanks to the Brood's expertise in carving incredibly small Valachains, the arrangements of Valinauts that cause mutations. The Saltfen Brood's carvers grow these small bugs with the body growth Valachain, which then allows for a larger surface area for more varied mutations. I asked Rel why the Brood doesn't carve Valinauts into other animals, or even themselves, like the Fleshforge does. He said the Brood does not carve into things they consider to be beings with higher consciousness. They specifically don't carve into themselves also because they believe it corrupts or even steals the soul, condemning them to dark powers. And they don't even acknowledge Matamoros, the god of change, the entity believed to have gifted Valinauts to humanity. They in fact worship no gods at all, putting their faith in their community, which includes their caste bugs. Survival, efficiency, and cohesion are their top priorities. We eventually arrived at the central hub, the Anthill Tower. Streams of ant caste members accompanied by their huge mutated ants were bringing supplies in and out of the structure. As soon as we parked, an ant caste member came up and chittered and stomped at Rel. Our guide stomped and kicked back, later explaining how the Brood was satisfied with our offering, and how they would provide some of their excess supplies in exchange for the bugs. Rel spent about 10 minutes trying to explain what we desired. Vital, frenzy, and sage honey, snail-derived glues, spider-derived silks and strings, fly-derived acids, and venoms of all sorts. The broodlings understood and told us to wait as they stocked up. After about an hour, the 2 beetle mounts were loaded up with beeswax containers filled with the various supplies. Everything looked to be there, but we were also not in the place to negotiate. Most of the crew, healing but still sickly, wanted to head back as soon as the cargo was loaded. I did not. My perspective on the Brood has changed so much in so little time. The struggles of life in the Skirmar Empire seemed so alien to their society. I did not see much strife here, besides the Brood binding. I may have even wished for a moment that I was born into the Brood. Rel told us the beetles would take us back east, to the edge of Saltfen. So we mounted the giant bugs and headed eastward. I turned back to the Brood outpost, reached into one of the containers and found some sage honey. I quickly ate a fingerful. A wave of euphoria slowly washed over me through the next hour. Every little critter in Saltfen had my attention. The frantic sounds of the swamp became a community song. I shared that jar with the remaining crew over the next week as we made our way back to Midlark. The beetles trotted on tirelessly the entire trip. As soon as we had arrived at our carriage and unloaded the goods, the bugs of burden returned home. And without any paper trail to worry about, I let the surviving crew each take respectable portions of our new vice, the sage honey. The transaction was a success. The Skirmar Empire paid well as promised, which went further with our dwindled numbers. I have been eager since to head back, but the journey there again might be the end of me. My last leg would be grateful to never enter Saltfen water again. The Skirmar Empire has misinformed us on the Saltfen Brood. Their culture is much older and complex than ours. I'd even say they have more of a true purpose. In the dark times ahead, under the looming threat of the Fleshforge, the Skirmar Empire exists in uncertainty. And unlike my kin, I know the Saltfen Brood will weather any storm. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to support this world-building project and get extra content each month, become a channel member today. Stay tuned for more lore from the world of salt and flesh.